Greetings, good citizens of the internet. Welcome to the very first Reaper's Review. We are pleased to have you joining us today. I am here with my old friend, Stephen Hido, a.k.a. Kid Flick.
Hello, Doug.
Stephen, how are you today?
I'm good.
Good,
I'm very excited about this.
I am as well. Folks out there, are you ready for a little decadence, a little extravagance, a little violence? Well, that's what you're going to get. We are reviewing our top 10 favorite De Palma films. We're going to jump right into it here in just a moment. I just want to again say thank you for joining us and welcome to the first Reaper's Review. Number 10 of mine is going to be going all the way back to, I believe, 1968. Greetings. Brian De Palma, Greetings. Young Robert De Niro. Wow. Steve, I really wasn't even aware of the early De Niro movies with De Palma until kind of getting into doing this.
Yeah.
So I'm kind of fascinated. So De Niro was De Palma's boy before he was Scorsese's boy.
He was.
Okay, yeah. And that's just something I wish I had known. I'd never gotten to those movies in the 60s. But with Greetings, it just felt very experimental. It felt like somebody who was very much coming to terms with a lot of talent and skill.
Yeah.
I'm talking about De Palma himself as a director.
My number 10. I love movies where you think the director's out of gas. And you're like, wow, that guy was good back then. And then he just steps on the plate and he proves that he still has that arm. And you're like, damn, dude. And I feel with this movie, he did way better than I imagined. I mean, I was excited to see it because, you know, I love McAdams. But I just feel Passion was a movie that was as close to vintage De Palma as we're going to get in 2012. You know, those set pieces are there. Yes, the ending feels like a little bit of a cheat, and it's like he's known to do that, and that one's particularly like, oh, dude. But I love that movie. Wonderful Pino Donaggio score. I think Pino Donaggio scored half the movies on my list. So
really?
That's kind of cool, yeah. Doesn't let down here. Yeah. I was just so glad I liked this movie. Because it'd been a while since I genuinely wanted to watch a De Palma movie for a second time. So, yeah.
I'll jump on to my number 9, Obsession. I think that was early 70s.
I think it's 76.
76?
Yeah.
Okay.
I think it's the same year as Carrie, which that's impressive.
Okay. One that I really didn't expect to like as much as I did, but it definitely grew on me. One thing with De Palma, a lot of times I would spend the first half of the movie kind of being like, I'm skeptical, I'm really not for this, and then he just kind of throws you for a loop, and then it's like, okay, I'm completely on board now. That one, I was just very curious about who was really behind everything. Help me out with the lead actor's name.
Cliff Robertson.
Yeah. Whether it was him or Lithgow kind of pulling the strings behind everything, and then the stuff with his daughter. I don't even know how. Is there kind of like an incest thing going on?
Yeah, well, it will surprise no one to know that Paul Schrader co-wrote the script, and in the original draft, it was very clear that the daughter and father fucked.
Okay. All right.
Because, of course, they did, because it was a Paul Schrader script. There is a line currently that I think the studio demanded where Robertson says in the third act, like, we never even had sex. Okay. And you can just tell the studio was like, he's saying that they never had sex. Because this is fucking weird, dude. Okay. So, yes, Paul.
Okay, yeah, because they kind of got married, and then they're like, they have a scene where they're like kind of at home, and
Still
I was
weird.
just kind of
Still weird.
Yeah, and I was just kind of like, is this marriage consummated, like in the medieval sense? What are we doing here? But just something, again, it was interesting. I really liked the performances, and just kind of not knowing until the end, and thinking about it for a day or two to process it a little bit. So that's my number 9, Obsession. We'll kick it over to you for number 9.
Nice. My number 9 is Greetings.
Oh, yeah. All right.
I have Greetings on VHS. I wish I would have brought it, but I brought Hi Mom to represent.
Okay.
So, yes. Yeah. No, like you said, just so it's one of those movies where you're just watching being like, wow, this is a thing that exists. It's just so crazy. It's so, people talk about like Blazing Saddles. I'm like, you couldn't make that movie today. Who?
Yeah.
You couldn't make Greetings today either.
No,
I mean,
no.
I'm not going to say I'm not laughing at some of those lines, but it's like, oh, wow, you can't say that today, Bob.
Yeah.
Yeah.
No.
It's just stylistically, it's pretty much one master shot after another. So to see how he would become like such a director
Sure.
In terms of, just using the form to such an amazing, But yeah, just fascinating movie and just genuinely funny to this day.
Yeah. And what's the LBJ line? Something like, things ain't too bad around here.
I'm not saying you never had it so good, but that is a fact, isn't it?
All right, number 8 for me. This kind of dovetails right in. Hi, Mom. Again, I'd kind of said earlier that Greetings and Hi, Mom are almost kind of twins because I think De Niro's character he's the same character, although not everybody else is, but he's kind of the same guy in it. Very bizarre sociopath, but also pretty hilarious. And
that's cool that they both made your list because I was definitely like focused on choosing one, but wow, they really impacted you. That's cool.
Yeah. And I put Hi, Mom a little higher because it just felt so dangerous as just filmmaking in general. Like, I don't even know if you could make films that feel that dangerous anymore. It's just something about it. Just is kind of like, wow, like here's a young filmmaker just kind of letting it all fly and using all of his talents and all of his resources. And, he's getting those movies made for like $30,000 or something like that. So just really impressive. With Hi, Mom, I was waiting for someone's mom to show up at some point, which, never really comes to fruition, and it's fine. It's not really what it's about, but that's just kind of something that I was waiting for.
My number 8. I love that throughout his career, obviously, De Palma has taken a little bit of crap for biting off Hitchcock a lot, and I love how he never is bothered by that. And it's like, he did it, he got called on it for an earlier movie. And then in 1976, what does he do? He remakes Vertigo. It was just such a cool, fuck you. Yeah, I like Hitchcock. Everybody likes Hitchcock. I'm just, being more honest about it. So, Obsession is my number 8.
Obsession, number 8.
Yeah. His streamlined remake of Vertigo. Beautiful looking movie. So cool how he got Bernard Herrmann to write the score for it. I mean, just imagine how happy he must have been as a filmmaker to remake Vertigo and get the guy who scored Vertigo that's the ultimate fuck you to everybody. So cool. His first of very 2 direct FUs to his audience. You'll hear about the other one later.
Okay. Good. Number 7 for me, Dress to Kill. Performances were great. Dennis Franz, I know, was kind of a mainstay with De Palma, especially in the 70s and 80s, and I thought he was great in this again. I won't get into even too much of spoilers of who lives or dies, but there are plenty of twists, and the way they kind of kept me from, kind of guessing it all right away was throwing that it was a patient that they were kind of going after, and that kind of took me off the scent of the main kind of culprit, if you will.
So did you see it coming? This is a movie that I've liked since I was 14, so it's tough to tell. How obvious is it? Did you at the end were you like, oh shit, it's it? I mean, that was
I got it maybe 5 to 10 minutes prior to it being verified.
Okay, that's perfect.
It was kind of like, oh, okay, very cool, very cool.
And my number 7. Speaking of being influenced by Psycho, this is my number. Oh yeah, they're even next to each other. I didn't even plan that. This is the second direct. Oh, you think I do Hitchcock too much? Really? Okay. So I'm just gonna push it so over the top. This is to me, this is the best case example of an artist leaning into an artistic tick and just being like, okay, I'm really gonna give it to you this time. I just love this movie so much, and if you don't, I'm sorry. 1992's Raising Cain. I just love that movie so much. I think if I was in a room with De Palma, that's the movie I would want to talk about the most.
Okay, wow, okay.
Yeah.
Really, okay.
Maybe my number 1, but that I would want him to know how much that movie means to me.
Sure, okay.
Yeah.
And I think you're not alone, but I don't think that one is discussed as much.
It's not
as you'd like it to be.
Yes, okay. I would like it to be discussed ad nauseum, just in American society.
Okay.
Yeah, Lithgow to me, that's the best example of a director being like, okay, dude, I'm gonna cast you in this movie, but I want you up, and him just being like, okay, I get it, boss.
Yeah,
God, I just love that performance.
To me, even the beginning is such a De Palma. De Palma tends to waste no time getting into it.
Yeah.
And when watching his movies over the past few weeks, reviewing a lot of them, it reminded me of how a lot of modern movies, they just need 20 minutes to just I don't know what.
Yes. Yeah.
Whereas this one, Lithgow is at a park. He gets in the car with this woman and her kids, and then he chloroforms her with a rag within like 2 minutes, and she's unconscious.
And then his nutty brother shows up. Some people might be like, we're going to wait 25 minutes to have the brother show up.
It's we're off and running within the first few minutes. So
cat is in the bag,
impressive, Number 6, Carrie. This is one, as a novel, was a big influence on me. When I was, teenager, 20s, wanting to be a writer, King was a big influence on me. His first one sold, and Carrie was kind of the big one for him. And then not long after, I think it was shot like before it hit the shelves or something like that, like right away. So right on top of the book having its success, or together at the same time, the movie comes out and has its success as well.
A friend of De Palma knew Stephen King and was like, this dude I know who's a school teacher just wrote a book. It's really good. You should read it.
Okay.
Yeah.
Makes perfect sense. Yeah.
I feel that's the movie he officially became De Palma. There's definitely senses of it, but I feel, the famous scene in that movie, the pig's blood shower, that sequence is the first like De Palma sequence.
Yes. So well done. Yes. Yeah, intense.
Where it's like, I could do this in 10 seconds, but I'm going to do it in 4 minutes, and you're going to be on the edge of your fucking seat, and you're never going to forget it.
Right.
That sequence was the first time he did that thing. That is just every shot is just so perfect and so choreographed.
Yeah, just again, a big one influenced me as a novel and as a film when I was younger. So that's going to be my number 6.
Nice. Yeah, Scarface is my number 6. This was probably the movie that most shot. It was like 10. It was 3. It was 5. I didn't know where to put this, and I might be driving away from this being like, nah, that should have been 4. I don't know. I know this is a tough one for me, but to me, again, watched outside of all that stuff, it still works. It still earns its tragic feel. It's probably the first 3-hour movie that I really loved. And I wasn't like, oh my God, this is so long. I remember my brother Frank showing it to me and almost like explaining to me some of the themes. Like, I know this is cool, and like the guy from Dog Day Afternoon that you like has like a really weird accent, but just like go with it. And the banker's now telling him this. That was kind of a formative experience with like Frank telling me the thematic elements of Scarface when I was like 11.
Young, precocious Stephen Hido.
Like chainsaw to the head. So again, it's one of those movies. It's like it's like talking about what more can you say about this movie that's already been said? It was a very tough one for me to place. I don't watch it a hell of a lot anymore, just because it's like I watched it to death in my 20s. But
Sure.
I feel it lives up to the hype, and I feel there's some amazing filmmaking in it.
I'm not going to say too much more on that. I'm just going to go to my number 5, Scarface. And here I am in a perfectly authentic Scarface outfit with a kilo of Primo Yayo sitting in front of us. They might be thinking I'm going to go 1 or 2 with Scarface, right? I'm just going to say hello to my little friend.
Yep.
I'm sorry. I had to rate it how I saw fit.
It's a tough one to rate.
Maybe I'll just be perfectly honest. Do you think they'd be okay with that?
I do.
I think I'll just lay it out there. I never liked Scarface as much as everybody else kind of did it, I felt.
Okay.
There was a period in my life where every party I went to, everybody's just yelling Scarface lines, and it just kind of, and it just was never quite there. I mean, there's a lot to like about it.
And you probably saw it for the first time when it had already become that cultural annoyance.
Exactly.
Where I saw it before that, so that makes a huge difference.
Yeah, I didn't see it at 11.
With Frank explaining it to you.
So I saw it when I was 19 or whatever, and it was kind of already that on everybody's dorm room wall. But watching it for this, I realized why. A little bit more why the nuts and bolts, and I like the
why you like it or why it's never
why
connected?
It's not number higher. Why it's 5 for me. Is because I like the first half of the movie better than I like the second half. Up until when he takes over and kills Frank, and he's smoking the cigarette, and it says "The world is yours" on the blimp.
Little on the nose.
Yeah. But up until then, I think that's a more compelling and interesting story than to what it becomes
You like the rise more than the fall.
from there. Well, in the fall, there's just maybe it's because I'm in my 40s now, or because the world has changed so much. But like watching the second half, I'm just like, God, this guy's just miserable. Like there's nothing about any of this that he even likes. You know, it's not like, yeah, I'm gonna get killed for the drugs, but I'm really into my woman, or I really like kind of hanging out with these guys. It's just nothing. You just can't please the guy.
My number 5. For De Palma's kind of first time as a hired gun to a certain extent, and obviously really pulled it off. One of the best high school movies of all time. I think it gets not put in that conversation enough. Probably one of the best, Stephen King movies of all time. Yeah, you talked about it. It's Carrie. It's, it was
We
one
are
that
bouncing back and forth.
Yeah, that's one that was like, I felt like, it's 5, that's respectable, but I mean, a lot of people would have that at number 1, and I get it, but, I feel like that's a movie other people could have adapted, and it would have worked, but it wouldn't have been what it was,
Sure.
The pig's blood scene wouldn't be as legendary, obviously, but, and I think the Spacek performance gets taken for granted.
Sure.
I think she was so perfectly cast that it's one of those performances where it's like, sure, she had, done Badlands and whatnot and Prime Cut, and then she was in that, and she's perfect. God, she's good in that movie. Like, watching it for this, I was like, wow, she is so perfect in that. Just visually and emotionally and everything. It's just like, wow, she is so perfect in that, and I just think that's like one of those performances we take for granted, but man, that's perfect.
Sure.
Piper Laurie is the mom, obviously, on fire. Another wonderful Pino Donaggio score, and wonderful. It was actually shot by Mario Tassi, who did Frogs and Stuntman, 2 of my favorite movies of all time. The movie looks so cool. It almost looks like a nightmare. Looks like a dream or a nightmare, or I can't decide which. But
every shot kind of has that feel to it for sure. Okay, so for my number 4, Casualties of War. What was it, 89-ish?
Oh, okay. That's the first time I'm actually surprised doing this list. Casualties of War, number 4.
Yeah.
Cool. Okay.
So, I'm going to name 4 war movies, I think, in the order they came out, okay?
Okay.
Deer Hunter. Apocalypse Now.
Yep, 78, 79.
Platoon.
86.
Full Metal Jacket.
87, yeah.
So when I'm watching Casualties of War for the first time a few weeks ago, I'm wondering, why is this made?
Okay.
As it starts off, I'm like, why? This is Platoon all over again.
Why is this what De Palma wanted to make? At that point, he was still making pretty much, he had his choice.
Why is this made when those other 4 war movies exist? And in true De Palma fashion, it became about something other than I thought it was going to be. And he really picked up the only thing left to me that you could pick up that those movies didn't touch on. Those movies showed that the local girls were being like abused and raped to some degree. But this one, the story becomes about that girl and Michael J. Fox's character and the repercussions of him trying to do the right thing.
Yeah.
So again, it's like De Palma kind of one-upped me again by picking like the only thing that wasn't like fully embraced in those other war movies and make it about that.
My number 4. Probably, and I'm not saying this to bash Brian's script writing capabilities, but this is probably the best script he's ever worked with. He's written good ones, but he's written ones that are very much his thing, that like he knows exactly what he's going to do with it. This is like, if you were just reading all the scripts to his movies, I would probably feel this is the best one. Boom, Carlito's Way. 1993. Just, another wonderful performance from Pacino, even though his accent's a little, you don't even care. It's still like a great performance. Penn, obviously, I remember I saw that at the theater in 1993, and driving home from the movie, my mom was like, damn, Sean Penn was good in that movie, and my dad was like, Sean Penn was in that movie? So, it's
the best testament you could have.
Yeah. And just shot by Stephen Burnham, who maybe a lot of De Palma's movies look great. I don't think a cinematographer has ever like jived with De Palma as well as Stephen Burnham, who's just shot tons of his movies. Just, almost him stepping out of the comfort zone and doing something that's like a little more, mainstream. His movies are always mainstream, but some people might not want to watch Dress to Kill. This is just like him stepping out and doing something that any adult could enjoy in just a very grand way.
Sure.
Perfect combination of it's De Palma enough, but it's not too De Palma. I like when things are too De Palma, but some people,
Sure.
might not. I think that's a great, just boom, right on the middle of the fence.
My number 3 is The Untouchables. Wow. A lot going on there. I really like the movie overall. I like the performances. I don't want to be overcritical of it, but I will jump into a little bit of criticism right off the rip here. I think it's a good movie. I think what prevents it from being a great movie is that the antagonist does not feel urgent enough and like right on their tail. So it's De Niro.
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
I think they cash in on a little bit of the fact, like, hey, it's
They're
De Niro.
on his tail more than he's just kind of like, yeah, whatever.
Exactly.
Yeah. Uh-huh.
And it's De Niro playing Al Capone, so you're supposed to just be like, oh, it's De Niro playing Al Capone. Whereas, I get it. Kevin Costner's kind of a boss. De Niro's kind of a boss in the movie, their characters. So the war between them has to kind of happen by proxies, right, up until a certain point. But even then, it just didn't feel urgent enough. And I just think, I'm just stating that that's what keeps it from being a great film for me. I just didn't feel enough. I just kind of love how Connery, even though he's just kind of the beat cop in the movie, like no matter who comes to him, like what station they're at in life or if they're high or whatever, he's always just kind of like, well, aren't you just a little bitch? Like, just like, it's just like, I'm better than you. And everybody kind of has to fall in line.
Yeah.
So yeah, that's my number 3, The Untouchables.
Great. My number 3 is probably Brian De Palma's best movie.
Okay.
I would say, like, if you were going to go into court and argue that this guy is a great director, this would probably be your linchpin of evidence. That this is just a perfect movie that's just phenomenally put together and acted in everything that a movie should be. It's also it's an emotional movie, which again, I hate the conversation when it comes to any director about he's too cold. But De Palma could be a little cold. This is a very emotional movie. To me, you're almost in tears at the end. Yeah, it's a blow up.
Oh, okay.
Yeah. Blow up. It's a remake of Blow Up.
Yeah.
Yeah. Just,
Blow Up, number 3.
Yeah. Just great performances. Just, again, just like the how it's cut, how it's shot. It's just, to me, that's like almost the most perfect example of what he's trying to do as a filmmaker, just in terms of his manipulation of the audience, his manipulation of emotion. It's one of those movies that doesn't even take up a lot of space in my head most days, but every time I watch it, I'm like, holy crap, that's perfect filmmaking. Again, and that ending gets you.
Cool. Well, why don't you leave that sitting there? I'll jump into my number 2, Blowout. Yeah. Everything Steve said, I mean, when it comes to filmmaking and just being everything is there for a reason. There feels like there's no loose ends. The performances feel great. The screenplay feels great. It's about the industry, which people that are into movies kind of like as well. I love how, Travolta character is a sound guy in it, and he's got to kind of use his sound abilities, to track the girl at the end. Like that's like, such a payoff, but it's like so hard to do sometimes in movies, to get the character to use kind of their special skill without being too on the nose about it. So I thought that was really well done here. Side note also, this is kind of what this all came about. I recently saw a video of Quentin Tarantino naming his 3 Castaway Island movies that he would take with him. Blowout was one of them. I was talking to Steve about it, like, oh, that's cool. I should probably see this movie Blowout. Steve said, if you ever want to debate De Palma movies, we should do that. And that was just like a month ago. So it all kind of came about from Blowout and Tarantino talking about Blowout. But again, I really like the movie, and I'm glad I saw it recently, and I definitely will be viewing again. And that's at my number 2.
And my number 2, to me, is just like the ultimate guitar solo. Like he like De Palma's made like, my number 3, Blowout. That's a great movie. To me, this is like the ultimate guitar solo, Dress to Kill. This is just De Palma doing De Palma to,
Going all out.
Yeah. All out. Another fabulous Pino Donaggio score. It's definitely interesting in this movie how, like, Angie Dickinson's, like, the sexually liberated woman who acts upon it, and then in, like, a time span of 12 minutes, she gets syphilis, gonorrhea, and butchered like a pig. It's like, okay, Brian, do you have something to tell us? Wow. Okay, so I get, anybody saying, the aged factor of this movie, but yeah, I absolutely love it. To me, it's almost the most De Palma movie there is.
Sure, I would agree with that, and I enjoyed it as well, as I said.
Yeah,
earlier.
like I said about Blowout, if somebody was like, prove to me that he's a good director, it'd be Blowout. But then if somebody said like, explain to me like, why is Brian De Palma Brian De Palma? It's Dressed to Kill. Yeah.
Number one.
Okay. Yes.
My number one, Carlito's Way.
Gotcha. Okay. Nice.
Embraces all the stuff I love about De Palma.
I thought you were going body double for your number one for a second there. I was going to be like, holy crap.
That was the one I was screaming to you about when I was texting the one night.
Gotcha. Yes.
Carlito's Way, like you mentioned before, it does kind of correct some of the things in Scarface where I care much more about the relationship at the core of it. The acting is great all around. Like you mentioned, Penn is phenomenal in it. It's probably one of my favorite Pacino performances, top 3 for sure. Nice. Really like him in that.
Again, accent's not perfect, but it doesn't matter.
Yeah,
it doesn't matter.
It's
like
just
the performance is what it is.
Yeah.
Yes,
yeah,
it's almost separated from the accent.
And it's just De Palma doing his pirouette shots and his, like the nightclub scenes where it feels like you're there.
Yeah.
There's just so many people, and it's just so kind of glamorous and extravagant, and there's just so much going on. Love all of it. Love the story. It's one I've loved since I saw it. And then even in reviewing all these, to me, it's just he focused all of his different skills to like tell a story the way he wanted to tell it. And I think it's really well done, really enjoyable movie. So my number one, Carlito's Way.
Nice. And I always thought Penelope Ann Miller was perfectly cast in that because she doesn't seem like a person you'd cast in that.
Yeah.
She's like almost so like Girl Next Story.
Yeah.
That,
but it's
I
perfect.
feel, yeah. Sisters is my favorite Brian De Palma movie. Yeah.
Yeah.
Loved it. Yeah, ever since I was a kid. God, those 3 guys tap dancing used to scare the shit out of me. And the dream sequence, oh my God, did those guys? That's like almost one of the first movie images that like kept me up at night.
Sure.
Those 3 motherfuckers tap dancing. I don't know, like when the mom shows up, when Jennifer Salt's mom shows up, like my God, that's just like so funny, and she's like so irritating, talking about like, why aren't you married? And Jennifer Salt's like, I'm trying to solve fucking murder, mom, shut up. That's just like I had me like laughing out loud. I love the Jennifer Salt performance. I'm sort of in love with her. That's like a side project that we can talk about. It can be a whole podcast within itself. But like her performance, it's so like strident and strong and empathetic. I just love that performance. Excellent. I know, all the posters are Margot Kidder, but just I think, Jennifer Salt's the heart of that movie. I wish she would have became a star. So the movie that I sort of thought was going to be my number one became my number one.
Yeah, okay, well, yeah. Well, that was the very first Reapers review.
It was rough, but we got through it.
Yeah, we did it. And De Palma was a great one for us to do, as we talked about, because he covers such a range.
Yeah.
That there's just a lot to talk about with the guy.
You got Hi Mom, Dressed to Kill.
Yeah, it's all over the place. Yeah, you've got very well polished Hollywood movies like The Untouchables, and then you've got movies where it's just him on the streets of New York. Just feels like it's run and gun with a camera. Great body of work, really interesting stuff. We will be doing more. This next part, Steve, I kind of know, from my kids and their YouTube videos. Check out Reaper's Moon Productions. Smash that like button. Hit subscribe.
Oh, he actually said smash the button.
Smash the like button. That's what the kids say. I've heard it. I've heard it countless times.
Okay, wow.
And there will be much more to come as far as doing different reviews, movies, music. We will have perhaps some of our friends who are actors and musicians on, all that good stuff. So look at the Reaper's Moon Productions channel down the road. And again, Doug Turner signing off with the very first Reapers review. Thank you, Stephen Hido, for joining us today.
No problem. Thank you for having me.
See you next time. Thank you.